The strange cry in the fog. The morning was quiet. Too quiet. Thick fog rolled across the ground like slow-moving smoke. Trees stood like ghosts in the mist. Jack, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and rough hands, walked along the broken path that led to the forest's edge. He was on his usual supply run. Nothing ever changed in this part of the wasteland. Not since the war. But today, something felt different. As Jack walked deeper into the fog, he stopped. His ears caught something, a sound. Faint. Soft. Like a whimper. Almost like a child crying, but not quite human. Jack stood still. He listened again. There it was. A strange cry, not loud, but full of pain. He turned his head and followed the ow sound. The fog grew thicker. He couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. His boots crunched on the wet ground as he moved carefully between the trees. The cry came again, closer now. Then, he saw something. A small body, curled up near a fallen tree, covered in mud. Thin. Weak. Skin. No, not human skin. It was pale blue, almost glowing. The creature's hair was silver white, tangled and full of leaves. She wasn't human. She was alien. She was hurt. Jack rushed forward and knelt beside her. Her clothes were torn. She had cuts all over her arms and legs. One side of her face was bruised. She was shivering. Her eyes were half open, bright purple, glowing, faintly. He slowly reached out. She flinched. "It's okay," Jack whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." Of course she didn't understand. But maybe his tone would help. She looked up at him, lips trembling. And then, in a voice as weak as the wind, she whispered something. The words were soft, strange, not English. And then, she went limp. She passed out. Jack didn't think. He took off his coat and wrapped her in it. She was light, so light like a child. Carefully he lifted her into his arms. Her head rested against his chest. Her breathing was shallow. Jack walked quickly back through the fog, heart pounding. Who was she? Where had she come from? Why was she alone, injured, and dying in the middle of nowhere? He had no answers. But he couldn't leave her. Jack's small cabin was just a half-mile away, hidden near the edge of the cliffs. He laid her down gently on his couch and lit the fireplace. The warmth slowly filled the room. He brought a towel and wiped the dirt off her face. Her skin was soft but cold as ice. He checked her wounds. Some were deep. She needed help. But there was no hospital anymore. Not since the alien war had ended. Earth was recovering, but slowly. He had only basic medical supplies. Still, he cleaned her cuts, wrapped them, and made a warm soup. She didn't wake. Jack sat beside her, watching, the fire, wondering what to do next. Suddenly, she made a sound. A soft gasp. Jack turned quickly. Her fingers twitched. Her lips moved. Her eyes slowly opened. She looked around, confused and scared. Then she saw him. She froze. Jack raised his hands. "It's okay. You're safe." She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her body trembled. She pushed herself back into the couch, her eyes wide. Jack pointed to the soup. "Food. You need to eat." She stared at the bowl, then at him. Slowly, she reached for the spoon. Her hand shook. She brought it to her mouth and then paused. Then she took a sip. Her eyes widened. She took another. Jack smiled. "There you go." He didn't know what she had been through. But one thing was clear. She was scared. She was lost. And she needed someone. That night, Jack watched her sleep by the fire. She still looked worried, even in her dreams. Sometimes she whispered strange words. Once she cried out. Jack gently covered her with another blanket. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But deep in his heart, Jack knew this wasn't a random meeting. Something big was coming, and this lost alien girl was the beginning. She opened her eyes and panicked. The fire crackled softly. Morning light pushed through the dusty window of Jack's cabin. The alien girl lay still under the warm blankets, her chest rising and falling slowly. Her skin had color now, no longer pale blue, but gently glowing. The cuts on her face looked better. Her breathing was calm. Jack sat in the corner, sipping tea. He hadn't slept all night. He just watched her, wondering if she'd ever wake, or if she'd run the moment she did. Suddenly she moved. Her eyes snapped open, bright violet, full of fear. She sat up quickly, breathing fast. Her hands gripped the edge of the blanket. She looked around, confused and alert. Her alien ears twitched slightly. She wasn't just waking, she was ready to fight. Jack stood slowly. Easy. You're safe here. She didn't understand. Her eyes locked onto him. She hissed, soft but sharp. Her claws came out slightly from her fingertips. She jumped off the couch and back toward the wall. Whoa! Hey, don't hurt yourself, Jack said gently, holding his hands up. She looked down. Her legs were shaking, still weak. Jack saw her try to run toward the door, but her knee gave out. She fell, crashing into the wooden floor. She cried out, then bit her lip in pain. Jack didn't move closer. I won't touch you, he said softly. But you're hurt. Let me help. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. Her glowing eyes were full of confusion, and something else. Fear. Not just fear of him, but of being caught again. Jack placed a bottle of water and some bread on the floor and stepped back. Then he sat down far away, near the fireplace. She stared at the food. Her breathing slowed. Her claws pulled back. Her lips parted slightly, and after a long pause, she crawled toward the water. She drank. Then slowly, carefully, she picked up the bread and ate, tiny bites like she didn't want to waste it. Jack said nothing. He just watched. Finally, she looked at him. Her face was no longer full of anger, only confusion, like she didn't understand why he wasn't yelling and or hurting her. Name? Jack asked, pointing to himself. Jack. She tilted her head. He tapped his chest again. Jack, she frowned, then pointed to him. Jack? Jack smiled. Close enough. Then he pointed at her slowly. You? She hesitated. Then she whispered something soft. A single word. It was musical, with strange sounds he couldn't repeat. He tried anyway. Zaya? Her eyes widened. She blinked, then slowly nodded. Jack smiled. Okay, Zaya. She didn't smile back. But she didn't run either. Later that afternoon, Jack took out an old translation device from a storage box. It was broken during the last war, but worked enough to translate a few basic alien words. He held it up. This might help us talk. She didn't answer. She just watched. He turned it on. The screen flickered. He slowly said, Are you alone? It crackled. The translator beeped. Then it spoke in her language. Zaya's eyes lit up. She hesitated, then leaned forward and whispered something. The device translated it. I ran. They hurt me. I ran until I fell. Jack swallowed. Who hurt? You? Zaya looked away. Her fingers touched a long scar on her side. She whispered again. Family. Jack's heart sank. She hadn't just been attacked. She had been betrayed. That night, after Zaya fell asleep again on the couch, Jack stood by the window and stared out into the misty forest. He had so many questions. Who was she really? Why did her own people want her dead, and how had she ended up so far from home? One thing was sure. Someone was looking for her, and if they found her, they might not give her a second chance. Jack glanced back at Zaya. She was no longer shaking, no longer breathing like someone ready to run, for now. She trusted him, just a little. But outside the fog, something was watching. The symbol on her skin. It was late at night. The fire burned low in Jack's cabin. Zaya was sleeping again, curled up under a thick blanket. Her breathing was soft now, calm. But Jack couldn't sleep. He sat at the small wooden table, turning, something over and over in his hand. A cloth. He had found it earlier when he was helping her eat. It had slipped from beneath her sleeve. A piece of torn cloth, part of her original clothing. And on it was a symbol. The design was strange. A golden circle with a sharp black line through it, surrounded by 3 glowing dots. It wasn't just decoration. It looked official, like a seal or a crest. Jack stared at it for a long time. He had seen something like this before, during his time as a repairman at the old spaceport. He had worked on many alien ships back then. Some were merchant vessels. Some were royal. He opened his old data pad, wiped the dust off, and began searching. His hands moved quickly, tapping through pages of old galactic emblems and flags. The data pad was slow, the internet connection barely alive. After a few minutes, the screen lit up with something shocking. Caution. Symbol belongs to the House of Varel, lost royal family of the Nyari sector. Jack's eyes widened. He turned to look at Zaya. Was she royalty? He clicked on more data. The House of Varel had ruled several planets over 100 years ago, but they had disappeared during the last rebellion. Rumors said the last heir, a child, had vanished after an attack on their palace. Jack stared at the image on his screen. The royal symbol. It was the exact match. The next morning, Jack sat beside Zaya with the data pad. She was awake now, sitting, cross-legged on the couch, her silver hair shining softly in the morning light. He pointed to the symbol. Zaya. This. You? She looked at it. Her face changed. Her hands trembled. She didn't answer with words. She just pulled back the sleeve of her arm and revealed it. The exact same symbol was branded into her skin, not drawn, not tattooed, branded, burned. Jack's breath caught. Why? He asked quietly. Zaya didn't speak, but her eyes filled with tears. He showed her the translation device again and spoke slowly. Princess? She didn't move. Then finally she nodded. One slow, painful nod. Jack leaned back, stunned. She wasn't just any alien girl. She was someone important, someone powerful. Or she had been. Now she was hunted, hurt, thrown away. Why are you here? On Earth? He asked. She answered with broken words. The device translated, I escaped ship. They wanted to sell me. I ran. I crashed here. Jack shook his head. Sell you? Marriage. Enemy. To stop war. His blood ran cold. She had been forced into a political marriage with someone dangerous. She had refused. And for that, they had hunted her like an animal. You didn't want to go? She looked him in the eyes and said clearly, I would rather die. The room fell silent. Jack understood now. She wasn't just running from danger, she was running from fate. She had defied a powerful empire, and now they wanted her back, not to protect her, but to punish her. He stood and paced the room. If they find out you're alive, they'll come. They'll send ships, hunters. Worse. Zaya sat still, staring into the fire. Jack turned to her. Do you want to go back? She shook her head. Then I won't let them take you, he said, firmly. Her eyes widened. You're safe here as long as I'm alive. She looked down at her hands, then slowly, she reached out and touched his. It was the first time she had done that. A small, silent thank you. But far away, in space above Earth's orbit, a beacon blinked. Jack's datapad had connected to the galaxy net to look up the symbol. And that search had been noticed. On a dark alien ship, a screen lit up with a single word, "Air detected." They knew she was alive. And now, they were coming. They're coming for her. Rain tapped lightly on the cabin roof. The fog outside had thinned, but something in the air felt heavy. Still. Wrong. Inside the small cabin, Jack fixed a lock on the back window. He had already reinforced the front door with extra metal plates. His hands moved quickly, his mind racing. Zaya watched from the corner. She sat with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, eyes wide and quiet. She knew it too. They were close. The warning had come just before sunrise. Jack's old data pad blinked with a strange message. Unauthorized royal search triggered. Coordinates tracked. He didn't know how fast they could reach Earth, but they knew she was here. That was enough. He knelt beside Zaya. "You feel it, don't you?" She nodded. Jack showed her a small bag. Inside were supplies, water, food, tools, an old blaster. "We have to move. Tonight." Zaya looked down, then softly said through the translator, "They don't stop." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "Neither do I." As darkness fell, Jack led Zaya out the back of the cabin, through the trees. The forest was damp and quiet. They moved slowly, carefully. Jack had set traps and sensor wires behind them, just in case. They reached an old cave system hidden under the cliffs. Jack used to explore here when he was young. No one came here anymore. It was forgotten. Safe. For now. They sat by a small lantern, eating quietly. Zaya finally spoke. Her voice was low, serious. "He will come himself." Jack looked up. "Who?" "The one I was supposed to marry. He wants control, not me, not love, just power." And I ran. She closed her eyes. "He calls himself king, but he is a killer." Jack's hands tightened into fists. "Then he'll meet someone who fights back." Later that night, something triggered Jack's sensors. A soft buzz in his ear from a tiny earpiece. He stood instantly, gun drawn. Zaya tensed. Then, just barely, Jack heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Not human. He moved to the entrance of the cave and peered through the shadows. Figures. 3 of them. Tall, armored, glowing red eyes under black helmets. Not soldiers, hunters. Jack held his breath. The hunters scanned the ground, checking footprints. One of them tapped a device, and a small hologram of Zaya's face appeared in red. They were here for her. One of the hunters growled, "She's close. Her scent is fresh." Jack backed away from the entrance. He turned to Zaya and whispered, "We move now." They slipped through a narrow tunnel in the cave's side, just big enough for one person at a time. Jack had found this passage years ago. He hoped the hunters didn't know about it. As they climbed through the dark stone path, Zaya stumbled. Jack caught her hand. "Keep going. You're strong." She didn't answer, but she didn't stop. Finally, they reached the forest again, deeper now, where no signals could reach. Jack found a hollow under a giant tree and set up a small hidden shelter. For the first time that night, they rested. Zaya looked up at the stars through a break in the leaves. "They used to comfort me," she whispered. "Now, they scare me." Jack looked at her and said, "They don't get to decide who you are. Not anymore." She looked at him for a long time, then asked a quiet question. "Why help me? I'm not your kind." Jack smiled gently. "You didn't have to be human for me, to care. You just had to need someone." Far above, in orbit around Earth, a large, dark ship hovered silently. Inside, a tall alien figure in black armor stood before a screen. His eyes glowed violet, cold and cruel. He stared at a moving red dot on a map, Jack and Zaya's last known location. "She's here," he growled. "And the human hides her." He turned to his soldiers. "Find them. Burn the land if you must. I want her alive." But the human? His lips curled into a cruel smile. "Kill him. Escape through the forest. The wind howled through the trees. The night was darker than usual. No stars, no moon, only shadows stretching between the tall trees and the soft crunch of footsteps in the mud. Jack held Zaya's hand tightly as they moved through the forest. They had to keep going. They couldn't rest anymore. The hunters were too close now, closer than ever before. Behind them, far in the distance, a loud boom echoed. A red glow rose above the trees. They found the cabin, Jack said, breathing hard. They burned it, Zaya looked back. Her eyes showed pain, but not surprise. They destroy everything, she whispered. Jack led her deeper into the woods, through narrow animal trails and thick underbrush. He knew these forests. As a boy, he used to explore every hill, every cave, every stream. Now, those old paths were saving their lives. He stopped for a second to catch his breath. Zaya leaned on a tree, her body weak. "You okay?" Jack asked. She nodded, but her legs were shaking. He opened his pack and gave her a protein bar and water. She drank quickly. Then suddenly, a high-pitched sound pierced the air. A drone. Jack grabbed Zaya and pulled her behind a thick fallen tree. The drone hovered above, red lights flashing as it scanned the ground. Its lens turned and pointed straight toward the bushes. It made a clicking noise. Jack held his breath. Zaya covered her mouth. The drone beeped once, then flew off. Jack didn't wait. "Run," he whispered. "Now." They moved again, faster, this time. But Zaya's energy was running low. Her steps slowed. Her hands trembled. Suddenly she stumbled and fell. Jack turned back, lifted her in his arms without a word, and kept going. She was light, too light. She had lost weight. She had lost too much. "I got you," Jack whispered. "I'm not leaving you." Zaya's eyes were half closed. "You should..." "No," Jack said firmly. "You're not a burden. You're the reason I'm still alive." By sunrise, they reached an old ranger tower deep in the heart of the forest. The stairs were broken, but Jack had once repaired the platform years ago. It was high above the ground, hard to see from above, hidden by tall trees. He laid Zaya on the wooden floor and wrapped her in a thermal blanket. Then, he checked his tracker. Bad news. 3 life forms were moving through the forest. Not animals. Not humans. The hunters had split up, and one of them was only 600 meters away. Zaya woke to the sound of wind and leaves. Jack was sitting beside her, sharpening a long metal rod into a spear. "You stayed," she said, her voice soft. He looked at her. "Of course I did." "I'm not worth this," she whispered. "I ran from everything. I lost everything." Jack leaned forward. "You're still here. That means you haven't lost." She looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, she smiled. Just a little. An hour later, the first hunter reached the tower's base. Jack had set a trap nearby, a series of sharpened wooden stakes hidden under leaves. As the hunter stepped forward, snap. A rope tightened. The ground gave way. The hunter fell. A loud mechanical scream rang out. Zaya flinched. Jack grabbed her hand. "One down, 2 more. But then, a voice echoed through the trees, a voice that didn't need speakers. Deep, cold, commanding. "Zaya Varel, come out. You cannot hide forever." Jack stood, body tense. Zaya froze. She whispered, "That's him. The one who was supposed to marry you?" She nodded. Jack's grip on the spear tightened. Then, footsteps. Heavy, slow, closer. Jack stood in front of Zaya. She tried to rise. "No," Jack said. "Stay down. Trust me." "But he'll kill you," she whispered. Jack looked back at her and smiled. Let him try. Her secret power wakes up. The air was still. The forest had gone silent. Even the birds had stopped singing. Jack stood on the old ranger tower platform, gripping the metal spear he had carved. His eyes scanned the ground below. Footsteps approached, slow, heavy, steady. Zaya sat behind him, her back against the wall, her energy almost gone. Her skin glowed faintly, but her body was cold. Her heart beat fast, not from fear but from something she didn't understand. A presence was getting closer. A voice spoke again from the trees. Zaya, come now. I will not ask again. She shivered. It was him, the one she had once called fiancé, the one who ordered her family's death. Jack didn't reply. He just stared into the trees, his chest rising and falling. And then, he saw him, a tall alien male, dressed in dark black armor with glowing red lines across his chest. His face was smooth, emotionless, like carved stone. Eyes violet and cruel. He wasn't surrounded by soldiers anymore, he had come alone now. He smiled when he saw Jack. You are the human, the alien said, his voice smooth like oil. You hid what is mine. She's not yours, Jack replied calmly. The alien's smile vanished. Jack stepped forward, gripping the spear tighter. The alien drew a strange blade from his hip. It glowed with dark energy. You're brave, but you'll die all the same. Then, it happened fast. The alien leapt upward, too fast for any human. Jack raised the spear and blocked the first strike, but the impact threw him backward, crashing into the tower wall. Zaya screamed. Jack rolled and stood again, bleeding from his forehead. The alien slashed again. Jack ducked. The spear hit the alien's arm but barely scratched his armor. You are nothing, the alien growled. Just a creature of dirt. Jack spat blood. Maybe, but I won't let you take her. Another blow came. This one knocked the spear from Jack's hands. He fell. The alien raised his blade for a final strike. Stop! Zaya's voice rang out, not loud, but filled with something strange, energy. The alien turned. She stood now, weak, barefoot. Her silver hair lifted in the wind, her eyes glowing. Bright white light surrounded her body. Symbols across her skin began to shine. The mark of her royal blood burned like fire. She lifted her hand, and the air trembled. The alien's blade shattered in his grip. His armor sparked. He stumbled back, confused. What are you doing?" he shouted. Zaya's feet lifted off the ground, not by her choice, by something ancient inside her. Memories rushed back. Her mother's voice, her people's gift, the bloodline power that skipped generations. Now, it had woken. She floated over to Jack and held out her hand. White light covered his wounds. His eyes widened. His bleeding stopped, his pain vanished. He stood. Zaya. She turned her gaze back to the alien. "You killed my family," she said quietly. "You tried to chain me." Her voice echoed, stronger than before, deeper. The alien backed away. "You can't control this," he said, afraid now. "You don't know what you are." Zaya's voice shook the air. "I know what I'm not. I'm not yours." With a wave of her hand, light burst from her skin and hit the alien. He was thrown into the trees, crashing through branches. The ground cracked where he landed. Smoke rose from his armor. He tried to get up, but couldn't. Zaya floated down, gently. Her feet touched the wood. The light faded slowly. She looked at Jack. "I don't know how I did that." Jack looked at her with wonder. "I think you just remembered who you are." She smiled faintly, but then collapsed. Jack caught her just in time. "Easy, easy. You're okay," he said. Her head rested on his shoulder. "I'm tired." "You saved us. I didn't want to lose you," she whispered. Jack held her close. "You never will." Far above, the ship that once watched silently began to pull away. The royal trackers saw the surge of energy. The bloodline had reawakened, and they knew now. Zaya was no longer just a girl on the run. She was a threat, a rising storm. She chooses to stay. 3 days had passed since the forest battle. The tower still stood, but the forest around it had changed. Trees were burned. The air smelled of smoke and ash. Birds had returned, but only slowly. Inside the old wooden platform, Jack sat beside a sleeping Zia. Her body was resting, but her power had not vanished. Faint white light still pulsed from under her skin like the beat of a quiet star. Jack watched her silently. So much had changed. She was no longer a frightened girl hiding in shadows. She was a royal heir, a survivor, and something more, something powerful. And now, the galaxy would want her back. When Zaya finally opened her eyes, it was almost evening. Her glow was dim now, but steady. She blinked slowly, adjusting to the orange light of sunset. Jack smiled gently. "Hey." She smiled back, small, tired, but real. "You stayed," she whispered. "Of course I did," he said. "You think I'd leave after all that?" She sat up slowly, looking around. "Is he gone?" Jack nodded. "We buried what was left of him in the woods." Zaya looked down at her hands. "I didn't mean to hurt him like that. I had no choice." Jack didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Sometimes surviving means fighting back." She looked at him, quiet. "What happens now?" Just then, a soft beep came from Jack's old datapad. A message. Zaya moved beside him. As he opened it, a single line appeared on the screen. "Royal envoy arriving, prepare for extraction." Zaya stared at the screen. "They're coming for me." Jack watched her face carefully. "Do you want to go?" She didn't answer. She walked to the edge of the tower and looked at the horizon. Trees stretched for miles. The sky glowed golden. A wind passed through her hair. "I was born into power," she said, "but I was never free. I was raised behind walls, trained to obey, trained to marry for peace, not love." She turned to Jack. "You gave me something no one else did." "What's that?" She stepped closer. A choice. The next morning, the ship arrived, silent and silver, hovering above the forest. It was not a warship. It had no weapons. Only a small team came down, diplomats, dressed in blue and gold. They stood on the grass, respectful, not pushing. Jack stayed beside Zaya as she walked toward them. The leader bowed. "Princess Zaya Varel, the council welcomes your return. Your absence has shaken the stars. We are ready to receive you." Zaya looked at them for a long time, then she said quietly, "And if I choose not to return?" The envoy leader looked surprised. "Princess, your people need you. The galaxy needs peace. You have power now. Power they will follow." Jack stayed silent. This was her moment. Zaya asked softly, "Will they let me be free?" The envoy hesitated. "Freedom is complicated." Zaya turned to Jack. He didn't say anything. He didn't beg her to stay. He just looked at her with calm eyes. "I don't have much," he said. "A cabin, some tools, and bad coffee." She smiled. "But," he continued, "if you stay, you'll have safety. A warm place. Someone who will never leave." Zaya stepped forward, standing between the ship and the man who saved her, and she said, "I choose him." The envoy said nothing at first. Then, with a bow, they stepped back and returned to their ship. No threats, no pressure, just respect. And then the ship lifted, disappearing into the sky. That evening, Jack cooked soup over the fire. Zaya sat across from him, still wrapped in a blanket, her eyes full of peace. "So," Jack said, "what now, princess?" She laughed softly. "Not a princess anymore." "Well, whatever you are, I'm glad you're here." Zaya looked into the fire. "I don't know what my future holds," she said, "but I know what I don't want. Chains, thrones, fake smiles." She looked at him. "I just want this." Jack nodded. "This," he said, "is yours." Far away in the galaxy, news spread. The lost heir had returned, but she had chosen Earth, not power, Not rule, not war. She had chosen peace. She had chosen home. She had chosen him. The end.